Well, I greet you all at the beginning of the year, and I cannot tell you how excited I am with the energy in the room and to be here as we start this year. And we will start, as we always do, with a prayer of convocation from School Chaplain Bob Gannon.
So I just have one little line from a wonderful writer and poet, Annie Dillard. She said, "The way we spend our days is the way we spend our lives." So in these next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, think deeply about the way you're spending your lives at Taft. There's a lot of great stuff going on here, and it's going to transform your life. So with that, I want to share a prayer that's adapted by one of my inspirations, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and he's taking it from Sir Francis Drake, an explorer in the 16th century. So let us come together in prayer. Let us pray. Disturb us, O Lord, when we are too well pleased with ourselves, when our dreams have come true because we dreamed too little, because we sailed too close to the shore. Disturb us, O Lord, when the abundance of things we possess, we have lost our thirst for the water of life, when having fallen in love with time, we have ceased to dream of eternity. And in our efforts to build a new earth, we have allowed our vision of heaven to grow dim. Stir us, O Lord, to dare more boldly, to venture into wider seas where storms show thy mastery, where losing sight of land we shall find the stars. In the name of the one who pushed back the horizons of our hopes and invited the brave to follow, we pray. Amen.
Well, my welcome is to everybody, returning students, and all of you new students and new faculty. And a thanks. I thought yesterday was just fantastic. The old boys and old girls and faculty members and teams and everyone who helped move in and make it a welcoming day. That really means a lot to me and to everybody. And old boys and old girls, keep doing that work over these next few days in particular. You know, we really believe that program's a way to create a kind of friendship and a mentorship. So thank you for all that work. And I would say the new faculty have joined the school who are absolutely extraordinary. It's a remarkable group of men and women. And I'd just like them, if I could have the new faculty stand and you could all welcome them. So if they would stand, please. New faculty, stand up. And this is a bigger group, but if you're a new student, stand up, and I want everyone in here to welcome them for joining the community. New students, stand up, please. It is so exciting. There's something miraculous when you think about it, that we are all here, all of our fates bending in those mysterious way to bring us together into this room. And it's a room, I think, today filled, you can almost breathe it, filled with dreams and hopes. And I think there's no more exciting and potent day. And I feel so fortunate to be a small part of it. And I want to give some remarks in a second, but I want to talk about what this is, school meeting. It's a reminder for returning students. But for new students, you're not going to know what school meeting is. I want to give you a quick explanation for it. The background is important. So until about 17, 18 years ago, we didn't have school meeting. The school had something called Vespers. And Vespers is a Christian term meaning evening reflection. And so for most of the life of the school, certainly dating back to the 20s, when this building was built, we had Vespers every night at 6:10 in the evening. And so boarding students would be in here for 20 minutes of reflection. It could be an outside speaker, it might have been a student, it could have been the chaplain, it could have been the head, it could have been anybody. And then they would go immediately after that to dinner, to sit-down dinner, just like we will tonight. And a number of years ago, we decided to end that tradition, and it was such a rich and important one. There are alumni who were concerned about it, and they would say to me, "Mr. Macker, we're losing something really powerful." The reason we changed it is it allowed us to have day students part of this critical moment. It also allowed us to kind of have a change in the academic day. And it meant that when you say, for instance, had an outside speaker, everybody had heard it, whether you went to the Q&A afterwards or in class. So it became a chance to create real total communal gathering. But it still retained a lot of the feel, or we wanted to have the feel of a Vespers. That is, there should be a seriousness about this. This is not assembly, which you'll see on a Wednesday and a Saturday, which is more announcements and a little more informal. This is formal. It is serious. It's an opportunity to reflect. If it's an outside speaker, this is their first impression of what the school really is. And so there's some protocols. We ask you to leave your backpacks and devices outside, or if you've kept your device with you, it absolutely is off the minute you come in here. I don't want you checking it. You find your seat, you chat with friends. We kind of dial down a little bit and get more quiet. And then there will be you'll hear a gong, and that means we are all silent. So when you hear that, we ask you all to take a deep breath, slow down, bring yourself to full attention very quietly. The second gong will then mean the speaker will come up on the stage, and we always applaud the speaker. This is serious, it is attentive, it's respectful, and then when we end, seniors go first, followed by the upper mids and the mids, and that's what we'll do today, okay? So if you have any questions about how it works, don't hesitate to ask me or any other faculty member. Now, here's what I want to talk about, and I guess if I gave this talk a title, it would be What Trees Can Tell Us, and I want to suggest something about, I want to reflect on community and what we strive to create every year, and I'm going to introduce a metaphor. And many of you know I like metaphors. I've often used the metaphor of a table at Taft, and that we are all a table, and we all make room for each other to gather around it. And you should be clear that what we set out to do every year here is an absolutely awesome and wonderful challenge. And with a community of students and teachers and staff and families, and with so much diversity and lived experience, right? And so much learning in tight quarters under considerable and heavy pressures. With all of that, we set out to create a healthy and happy and functioning learning community where everybody feels they belong and everybody feels valued. It is a good goal. It's not a political goal. It is neither liberal nor conservative. It's just right. Who doesn't want that? It's really hard work, and it's this diversity that makes it tough and also makes it so important and so valuable. And by the way, when I talk about diversity, I'm talking about all kinds. Race, gender, class, orientation, worship, nationality, politics, personality, diet, passions, hobbies, abilities. It would be a lot easier if we had 595 students and some 120 faculty who all had the same experiences, saw the world the same way, but could you imagine how boring, how irrelevant this school would be, how useless it would be? Would you be interested in this school? We don't want that. And if we succeed in doing what I've described in this hard work, we've done something rare. We've done something beautiful. And you'll know it, by the way, if when you graduate, you look back and say, you know what? I could grow. I was able to grow into what I wanted to be. So I found myself thinking about this idea of growth, that in a way, this school is a lot like a complex ecosystem with incredible biological diversity. And if it's healthy, the conditions are such that there's room for everyone to grow. And really all we have to do is each of us be a tree and the school be a forest. Now here's what I mean. We can learn a lot about a community by looking at how a forest thrives. And I got thinking of this metaphor this summer when I was reading a really fascinating book called The Hidden Life of Trees, What They Feel and How They Communicate, by a German scientist and forester named Peter Wohlleben. And you may be thinking, this is what I do for fun. But I'm proud of my inner science nerd, and this book was absolutely riveting. Wohlleben has spent his life studying trees and forests, and what he learns is that trees actually seem, and I use these words deliberately, to feel and communicate and share, and those are verbs that we don't often think about with trees. The chapter titles include ones like this: love, friendship, united we stand, divided we fall, immigrants, mighty oak or mighty wimp. You sense that this is not going to be a straight science book. What's really interesting is that when he talks about trees and forests, it's hard not to conclude that he's also maybe talking about people and communities and societies and nations. You might think he's almost winking at us to make sure we're in on it. His word choice is simply too coincidental. It's too human. And the lessons that he learns seem too relevant to be accidental. You find yourself saying when you read this, is he really just talking about trees? The answer, of course, is well, yes and no. It sure feels as if he's talking about us. And the book starts in this way. Wohlleben is in the woods, and he finds this big ring, about a 5-foot ring, of what he assumes to be moss-covered stones in a beech forest. But when he scratches the stones, he discovers it's actually the bark of a huge tree that died hundreds of years ago. And when he takes his knife to the wood and puts a little scratch in it, he finds it's actually green. It's alive. And you biology students know that green is the color of chlorophyll. And chlorophyll means there's living cells. And living cells need sugar. And so how is this centuries-old stump alive? He writes, one thing was clear. The surrounding beech trees were pumping sugar into the stump to keep it alive. And trees, it turns out, are continually helping us. And with that, the book is off, and it's running with lots of science and plenty of lessons. And here's a few of the lessons. Here's the first. Trees are really interdependent, he says. Beneath the soil, there's all kinds of sharing. And I quote, it appears that the nutrient exchange and helping neighbors in time of need is the rule, not the exception. Once connected, the roots from different trees have no choice but to exchange nutrients. They create what looks like a social network. Now that sounds a lot like Taft. There's no way this place could work if we all tried to act independently, if we were not totally intertwined. Taft doesn't work that way. We're all like the roots beneath that soil, totally and tightly connected in all we do. You have already seen that. And as with trees, acts of connection, this is the key piece, acts of connection, no matter how small, sustain and strengthen everyone. Acts of connection, no matter how small, strengthen everyone. A hello in the hallway, putting your device down, taking your buds out so that you make eye contact, you can have a hello, a fist bump at a practice, pulling up a chair to bring someone in at the table. We are a forest, totally interdependent, continually exchanging the things that make us stronger. Friendship, ideas, support, respect, humor, and love. Here's another one. Trees, he writes, also seem to want all of their neighbors to succeed. Now that is a crazy, I thought. Trees want their neighbors to succeed. I thought this was a world where it's always competitive and trees are trying to choke each other out. No, the science is clear that they actually, stronger ones, try to help weaker ones have a chance. What they've discovered is that trees, through their roots, are good at actually equalizing the difference between who is strong and weak. And I quote him, whichever tree, whoever has an abundance of sugar hands some over. Whoever is running short gets help. And in case we did not get the implied point for how a human community might work, he writes, it's a little bit the way some social security systems operate to ensure that individual members don't fall behind. I would add, it's a little bit like how this school should work. And by the way, I've seen acts of this already. I saw several just moments ago. Sharing the way that the stronger tree does with the weaker one benefits all because the act makes the entire forest healthier. The stronger helping the weaker makes the entire forest healthier. It's the opposite of what you all know as a zero-sum game, where the act of winning by definition means someone's losing. That is not who we are. Trees seem to realize that helping another tree benefits all. The giving comes right back. And I really like this idea, and I hope it marks us. And I look in particular at the seniors in the front row and to think of the effect you could have, the leadership you have, the potential that you have to help all students, in particular younger ones, the influence you have to shape this school year. I hope old boys and old girls, monitors, captains, class committees, club leaders, that you're going to look for those moments to support new students. And I hope that when any single one of you sees someone who looks like they're lost in the hallway or sitting alone in the dining hall or seems lonely and isolated or struggling in class or having a difficult time emotionally, and of course that happens, especially in these opening days, I hope you'll help them. When you do, the entire school gets strong. Here's a third. Trees grow really vigorously, but what's amazing, and maybe not what you'd expect, is that he says they make room for each other. Sometime take a walk in the woods, he says, look above you. And I quote, this is what you see when you look above you. The average tree grows its branches out until it encounters the branch tips of a neighboring tree. It doesn't get any wider because the air and better light in that space is already taken. You get the impression there's quite a shoving match up there, but a pair of true friends is careful from the outset. The trees don't want to take anything away from each other. And that comment absolutely blew me away. They actually make space for each other so they can all get some light. Trees seem to recognize the truth that communities work best when there's more partnership than argument. And I would argue that sounds a lot like what we might be. Yes, there's a good bit of shoving in this school filled with ambitious and smart folks. We compete, we bump against each other, we might even cross branches, if you know what I mean, metaphorically. But when we are most healthy, the place looks a lot like the forest he describes. There's room for everyone, and everyone makes space. One final lesson, and this, I think, is the most important one. Trees even seem to realize, to the extent we can use that word, trees seem to realize that working together, they can create the very conditions they need to be healthy. That is, their acts actually change their world. They change their surroundings for the better. And it's his most important observation for us. It's as if trees know something that we continually remind ourselves of. Wohlleben writes, together, many trees can create an ecosystem that moderates extremes of heat and cold, stores a great deal of water. If every tree were looking out for itself, most would never reach old age. In other words, the things trees do, how they grow, how they share, how they interconnect, they actually change the entire environment for the better for all. They make their own climate. And that's what you experience if you've ever walked in the woods and you feel that cool, moist air above you and the rich soil beneath you. So listen how he concludes. He says, every tree, therefore, is a valuable member of the community because each is contributing a little bit. Every tree is needed. Now, come on. He cannot be just talking about trees. What he calls climate, we call culture. So if we're able to look out for each other, make connections, share resources, allow space, all this will create the very conditions that we all need to thrive. And that is a profound idea. It speaks to the opportunity you each have because each of you is a valuable member of the community and each of you has an impact in shaping it. You have a hand in creating the world that we are going to live in. You can make it the kind of place where we're all included, where we all might grow. And this happens in so many ways. It happens when you show empathy for someone's experience when it's really different than yours. When you allow voices to be heard, in particular the faintest. When you act with courage and conviction if you witness an act that is mean or exclusionary. When you disagree with someone with respect and openness to change. When you reach out to support someone who seems in pain. When you offer humor and energy when others are fatigued. Look, you get it. You're smart readers. You got the metaphor right away. But I'm going to return to it during the year. Convinced as I am that this school of teachers and students and staff and Aramark and families is like the forest that he describes. Now, I don't know whether he intended readers, whether he wanted me to make the leap I've made from trees to students, right, from forest to school. I suspect he did. His language is too human. I think those insights are too urgent, too critical and relevant today. I can't believe that he was really only writing about forests. And that the trees have something to tell us seems so obvious about this community, and it is so humbling for us as a species. And what we might learn, I think, is something so beautiful and so rare, something that we have to aspire to, that we need to do the hard work, and we have to have the faith that together we can get it done. What I do know is that he provided more than just good science. He provided metaphor, maybe poetry, and with it something we might hope to be, all of us as trees, and this school as a forest. So it's in that spirit of togetherness and excitement and potential growth I greet you all in the beginning of the year. I hope you have a great day today. We will have our first sit-down dinner tonight, and we gather again as a community. And with that, I wish you the very, very best as you begin the year. Let's let the seniors go out first, okay? Thank you.